Welcome into another edition of First Draft. Always look forward to talking to Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay. I am Field Yates. Todd, happy Thursday to you. What's going on, my friend?
Not much, man. Just happy to be here. Excited about all these updated rankings and everything coming off the Senior Bowl. It was an unbelievable week in Mobile, and more first, second, third rounders than I can remember in a long time of covering the game.
Can't wait to hear and see how all those players impact their draft status after the week in Mobile. Mel Kiper Jr., what's going on, my friend? You were not down in Mobile, but of course, you had a close look at the practices all week in the game on Saturday.
Exactly. A lot of changes. Todd's already going to make those. I'll do that in another week or so. And then the mock draft start. We've already done a few early, but it's going to be changing. And obviously now we look forward to the combine workout where you get accurate measurables on players and we don't even know what their height, weight, and speed are and their overall test numbers. So that's going to be really interesting in early March to finalize that, get those numbers, lock them in, and then you can really, I think, secure final rankings moving forward into those pro days.
All right, so let's move on from rankings to a specific team here. So this past week, I know, Todd, when you were at the Senior Bowl, you had a chance to observe Mike Tomlin coaching on the field. I want to ask you about that in a second, but to set the scene here, Pittsburgh, they have the 18th pick in the draft, the 20th pick in the draft, excuse me. They also, as of right now, have one quarterback under contract for next year in Mason Rudolph that has taken any meaningful snaps for them. Otherwise, they're kind of staring at a rather barren cabinet. Tell me about Mike Tomlin and what you observed watching him coach or observe practice last week, and then let's talk about what you think might be the perfect plan of attack for them at the quarterback spot this offseason.
Yeah, I've been going to the Senior Bowl for 23 years, so with all that time there, you get used to different coaches and GMs and what their habits are. Are they up in the booth, or are they in the in the stands? Are they on the field? And Tomlin's always one of those guys who's kind of, I call it hands-on. He's watching, and he's like 5 yards away from offensive lineman, defensive lineman drills. Spends a lot of time with the defensive backs and basically on the defensive side. This year, and Kevin Colbert, the general manager, is always on the field as well. Those two are, and they're together at times, and then they'll split up and look at different parts of practice. This year it was fun. It was interesting to watch because Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert, they would start the practice out, especially, the individual drills early on. They would be with the defensive linemen and looking on the defensive side. The second it got to competitive drills, like 7-on-7s, team drills, those two would walk in unison. And they were by each other's side the entire practice, from the very first snap to the very last snap of practice. They were by each other's side, but they would walk over and be studying the quarterbacks the rest of the practice. So if it was a 2-hour practice, it was probably 20 minutes on the defensive side. When things started to heat up, the other hour and 40 minutes were on the quarterbacks. And it was interesting to see, because remember, too, this is Colbert's last draft, and he obviously, with Ben Roethlisberger, and winning 2 Super Bowls, winning 252 games, he's retiring after this draft in 22 years, what he's done with that organization, but he still wants to leave a legacy. He wants to be able to draft the next guy that can be there for another 10-plus years. And so it was cool to see those two studying Malik Willis from Liberty, Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati, Sam Howell from North Carolina, really diving into those guys to try to figure out, all right, we're picking at 20. Which one of these guys, if it's not Matt Corral from Ole Miss, who's the only one of the top 4 quarterbacks that wasn't in Mobile this past week, if it's going to be one of these guys, let's make sure that we see every single competitive snap that we need to see out of them to get the most information we can get.
Now they better figure it out because you got Joe Burrow's not going away. He's in the Super Bowl, right? Well, Baker Mayfield was banged up all year, injured significantly. He's going to be a lot better like he was 2 years ago when he was a really good quarterback. People forget that. Baker Mayfield was a really good quarterback 2 years ago when he was healthy. And then you got Lamar Jackson, who was a really good quarterback, an MVP quarterback before he had issues. And the team had a gazillion injuries, right? So this is a division. You're 4th. You're locked in at 4 at quarterback, right? You can't win anything being 4. Denver found that out. You can't be the 4th best team at quarterback in your division, and they're 4th by miles, okay, now with Big Ben gone. So what do? Do you go after one of these quarterbacks? Are we excited about any of these quarterbacks? I had Matt Corral going there in Mach 1.0. Had Kenny Pickett going a little earlier. I had Malik Willis at 11 to Washington, right? So are they excited enough about one of those quarterbacks, or do they make a move for Jimmy Garoppolo, give up a second? They don't have a lot of picks this year. What do they have, 6? Okay, no 5, no 6. So think about giving up a 2 for Jimmy G. Does Washington Give up a 2 for Jimmy G. Is going to be some activity there. So do you feel it's better to get Jimmy Garoppolo or draft one of these quarterbacks? We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes down. It's going to be really interesting to see how Pittsburgh, the Steelers, attack it because they can't be. They know what they need. You're right, Todd. They had to be aggressively looking at these quarterbacks as they know the 3 young guns that are in this division are not going away.
Worth noting that ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the draft order, we have teams like Washington at pick 11. We have teams in the top 10 like Carolina at 6 and Atlanta at 8 that maybe will be in that quarterback market. Plus, the New Orleans Saints at pick number 18, who as of right now do not have Jameis Winston under contract. Should be a fascinating offseason for Pittsburgh. Mike Tannenbaum has joked on a couple of occasions that if they do draft Kenny Pickett, he'd have the shortest commute from his college campus to his pro career ever because Pitt obviously played at Heinz Field. Todd, do you feel like there's a draft prospect amongst those top quarterbacks that is best suited for Pittsburgh, factoring in the kind of offense they played with Ben Roethlisberger and where they're at right now as a franchise?
I think Malik Willis is the most intriguing of them. I don't know that he's going to get to pick 20. In fact, I would bet against it. But I could see them. Roethlisberger early in his career, a lot more mobile and extending plays, but it was never really, the quarterback run involved in it. I could see them kind of going all in on what they already have and trying to enhance that. And that is great defense, a really strong run game, and now a quarterback with Malik Willis, or even Matt Corral for that sake, coming in. And now we get a numbers game advantage if the quarterback is willing and effective as a runner. And so, some of the RPOs and some of the zone scheme options that they could have could really wind up benefiting them. And they could become a little bit like Baltimore, especially earlier in Lamar's career, where just absolutely living and dying on the run game and then occasionally, popping a big one, throwing the ball down the field. So I think Malik Willis, for some reason, to me, that seems like the best fit. Matt Corral could be a really good fit. Obviously, Kenny Pickett is the hometown guy and would make some sense. But it wouldn't surprise me with their defense and run game if they wanted to get more of a mobile quarterback that can come in so they can completely lean in on what they already have as a team strength.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, Todd, because the difference of a Jimmy Garoppolo, if you want to trade for him, your offense is going to be a lot different than it would be with, say, Malik Willis. And the blueprint's there. Lamar Jackson, what Josh Allen's doing in Buffalo, is this dual-threat superstar quarterback. They have the blueprint for success with Josh in Buffalo and certainly Lamar in Baltimore. But then they also have, do we want the pocket guy? Do we still want to go traditional? It's going to be really fun to see because this offense will be dictated in terms of scheme and what they're trying to do and attack defenses with by what type of quarterback they get. And they're all different. And they're all over the place here. Jimmy G's a lot different. Pickett's different. Obviously, Matt Corral. We got Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell. It's going to be really fun to see whether Pittsburgh sits at 20. As you said, they're not going to get that quarterback that they love at 20. They're going to have to move up aggressively. Do they have the draft capital to do it? Doesn't look like they do. Boy, when we're talking in early May, who that quarterback is that they identified, we don't know who it is. It's a mystery right now. We're not psychics. We can't tell you. But it's going to be really interesting to see how they attack that quarterback position and close that gap between where they are right now where those other 3 teams are.
Yeah, the Steelers are doing something for the first time in 18 years. They're looking for a quarterback. This is not exactly uncharted territory, but it's been a while since Pittsburgh had a question mark under center. Great stuff, as always, from Todd and Mel. First Draft continues after this, but Mel and Todd are back on Monday for our usual live show.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.